Many years ago, in the village of Oba, there was a very strict rule that guided the people, keeping them in harmony and making them have peace amongst themselves. This rule was that no family was entitled to the throne. Every family had a fair right to the throne, provided a son won the tax that was carried out by the able men of Oba. The tax was always carried out when it was time to choose a new king. All the able men of Oba would go to the evil forest and search for a particular item the elders of the land had chosen for them for that period. In this beautiful community of Oba, the current king, being King Onyema, had a very handsome son named Ikenga. Ikenga was a very handsome and hardworking prince. Ikenga was greatly admired by so many. And when it was time to choose a new king, the people of Oba had pleaded that Ikenga took over the throne, but most of the villagers refused, stating that no one can come and change what had guided their forefathers. The rule had always been that whosoever wins the tax was going to be the next king. So they can't just wake up one day and decide that Ikenga should take over the throne. With this, Ikenga and his best friend Uzoma walked hand in hand towards getting the staff that was asked of them to get. While in the evil forest, it was a very scary ride, as the forest was dark. The trees were tall. Most young men died on the way. It was a very, very tedious one for them. Even though they had been trained prior to their journey, most men died. Others died out of hunger. Some others died out of sickness. It wasn't just a tax for whoever that wasn't prepared. And after a very long, tedious 7 days that felt like a year, Ikenga returned with the staff of honor that was asked of them to go look for. And after Ikenga had returned, 3 days later, Uzoma, his best friend, returned, as Ikenga and Uzoma had separated in the bush unknown to them. The plan was that whosoever gets the staff will be the king, and his friend will take over as the chief advisor. After Uzoma looked around the bush for so many days and did not see Ikenga, he even blew the flute they had. That was a sign that whoever gets the staff should blow the flute so that the other could know and return back. But Ikenga blew the flute and Uzoma did not hear. So when Ikenga returned, after Uzoma blew the flute for so many days and did not hear any response, he decided to return home, knowing fully well that the staff had been taken by someone, be it Ikenga or any other person. But on returning, he found out that the staff was taken by Ikenga. They were both excited that one of them had gotten the staff. So, while they prepared to crown Ikenga the king, Ikenga had promised Uzoma that he shouldn't worry, that since he is king now, his son will also be king next time. Uzoma was excited, holding on to Ikenga's words, believing that it was going to come to pass as he had said. Ikenga ruled the people of Oba greatly. Peace and harmony. There was no war, no fight. There was never a time they had famine. Ikenga took after his father. The people of Oba admired his greatness. They admired his rule, as Ikenga was a very wise king. Before he passed any judgment, he was going to make sure he understood the both parties before giving any judgment. The people of Oba loved his reign and looked forward to who was going to be the next king. While the able men of Oba prepared for the next tax, most of the villagers had pleaded that they didn't want the tax anymore, as the tax was rendering most of the young men's life in danger. Most of them don't return back after carrying out this tax. They all came together and agreed that Ikenga's son, Azuka, should take over and become the next king. Losing the lives of young men wasn't something they wanted, as the young men in the village weren't even enough. So who will their daughters get married to if they lose half of the men while they are going to search for a staff or for a crown? They all pleaded with the elders of the land that Azuka should please take over and become the next king. And if Azuka's rule wasn't great, they will appoint the next king. They pleaded that whosoever sits on the throne should be appointed and no longer by carrying out a tax. So the elders of the land sat down and thought about it. The people had brought their pain to them. It is true that this was a rule that had governed their forefathers. But thinking about it, most men had been lost. The lives of most able men had been lost because of the search for a staff or something in the evil forest. It was better that the people come in agreement and choose who was going to rule over them. And whosoever they choose, if the person wasn't doing right, they had the power to bring the person down and choose another person. And after the elders had given this a very good thought, they decided to oblige to what the people had asked them, as they were the voice of the people. So the elders went to meet the king, King Ikenga, and they spoke to him about what the people had suggested. Ikenga, being a very fair man, wanted to hear it from the people's mouths. And when the people accepted that that was what they wanted, Ikenga told his son, Azuka, what the people had said, and said he cannot go against his people. If the people want Azuka to be the king, so shall it be. And the villagers chanted, Isi. And when Ikenga was done talking to the villagers and returning back to his chamber, he noticed displease in Uzoma's face. Uzoma quickly reminded him of his words. You promised that my son was going to be the next king. And we all agreed that they were going to go to the evil forest as promised. We agreed that we were going to talk to the children. So as your son Azuka was going to help my son Aina to become the next king. That was what we agreed. So why have you changed your mind all of a sudden? Ikenga tried to explain to his friend Uzoma that this wasn't what he wanted. This wasn't his voice, but what the people want. And he told Uzoma, in order to be a good leader, you have to give the people what they want. I know that I had made agreement with you, but whatsoever I have in this kingdom, that is what you have. I have never treated you like a right-hand man. I give you the free will to make opinion. I make you feel free. To the people, you are more like a second king to them. So our kids can live that way. Uzoma was so offended and he told Ikenga, what do you mean by that? Even if I have been given a free will to speak, all the contribution I have given to you and I have brought to the chamber gave a productive result. It is different from being a right-hand person as sitting on the throne. To the people, you're the king. Who bows to me? No one. So we should stick to our agreements. Don't come and change it and try to push it to the people. And who even told you that I believe you? Do I know if you have decided to talk to the people behind me, pleading with them that your son should take over as the king, and trying to buy them away with the lies that men are dying in the evil forest? Ikenga was so upset and told Uzoma, what do you mean? Out of the 20 men that was sent during our batch, how many returned? We were barely 4 because the last person came back crippled. What do you mean by I went to talk to the people? I did not. I was on my own when the elders of the land came to meet me and told me that this is what the people said. I did not go to talk to anyone. That is what the people want, and we should learn to give them what they want, because without these people, we cannot be king. Uzoma was highly offended, highly disappointed in what was coming out from Ikenga's mouth, because this wasn't the agreement right from day one. The agreement was that whosoever becomes king, the other person's son was going to take over. And now Ikenga is trying to betray his words. Ikenga is trying to lie. Uzoma told him that can't happen. If your son takes on the crown, there will be war. Ikenga looked at him and said, there won't be any war because the people want him and not your son Eyina. If they wanted Eyina, they would have chosen Eyina. And my son is going to rule and rule greatly. That night, while Ikenga was sitting on his bed, he recalled all that had happened and he knew that he had betrayed his friend Uzoma. But this wasn't his fault as he had not even spoken to the villagers. They decided on their own and had come to meet him. How was he going to pass this information to Uzoma so that Uzoma doesn't feel betrayed? The next day, he called Uzoma and he told Uzoma, please and please, I want us to get to another agreement. I don't want to fail the people. I don't want it to be like as if I don't have a stand. If my son never gave birth to an heir, your son is going to rule over the people of Oba. Please, let us come to this agreement so that we remain friends and we live in peace as we've always done. Uzoma looked at him and said, so if your son gave birth to a son, uncle, does that mean that my son will never ascend the throne? Or does that mean my lineage will never ascend the throne? Ikenga looked at him and said, even if my son gives birth to a son, your son will still be there. They both shook hands in agreement and they departed ways. After Ikenga was done meeting Uzoma, he quickly went to his son Azuka and told him the agreement he had with Uzoma. Azuka wasn't comfortable with it and told him, Papa, you've lived your life. My reign is going to be different from yours. I am going to choose my people. But I don't think I'm going to stick with your agreement. As if I should give birth to a son, and if the people want my son to be king, I won't choose otherwise. I won't go and choose Eyina's son over my own son. Ikenga looked at him and said, you see this staff that I had brought home? It was through the help of Uzoma I was able to bring it back. And that was why we made the agreement. So I really want you to understand and I want you to walk in line with what I have told you. Azuka thought about this for days. Why will his father go and agree such a thing? What if he gave birth to a son? Does that mean after giving birth and after ruling, he was going to leave the palace? So what if they don't want Eyina's son? Was he going to be the king that was going to give up his throne for a bad rule? After thinking about it, he told himself, when I become king, I will change the rule and the agreement that they had. Azuka kept on being friends with Uzoma's son, Eyina. Uzoma, who was a very mischievous man, advised his son, Eyina, to go get married to the lady he felt Azuka loved. In this beautiful village of Oba, there lived two twins, Oluchi and Oluido. Oluchi is a very calm one, very, very polite, very nice, and barely even came out of her home. Oluido was the chaka-chaka body. She loved to be noticed. She was a very pretty lady and everyone admired her. Azuka was very close to the two twins, though he hadn't made his interest known to anyone. To Oluchi, she felt that Azuka loved Oluido, as most times when Prince Azuka came around, Oluido was always flaunting herself around him. Uzoma, the mischievous man, quickly went to make moves on Oluido. He asked his son to go pay the bride price of Oluido, to which Eyina did, as he genuinely loved Oluido, and he felt that his friend also loved Oluido, and whosoever made his or her interest known was the right person to get married to her. So Eyina quickly went to sell a plot of his land and got married to Oluido. After he got married, Azuka came to congratulate him and even wished him well. Unlike what he expected, he thought that Azuka was going to tell him he got married to the lady he loved, but Azuka did not say anything. Azuka wished him well and prayed that they lived long and happily. And on the third market day, Prince Azuka went to pay the bride price of Oluchi, the lady he had genuinely loved. Oluchi was a very calm, beautiful lady and very, very talented. Oluchi loved to draw, and her drawing came from inspiration. She wasn't drawing something because she just saw. The moment she gets inspired, she begins to draw. And her drawing felt like reality, as most things she drew felt like they were going to come to life. She was drawing from the depth of her heart. Her parents never liked it, but she kept up to it, as that was her passion, and that was something that gave her joy. Prince Azuka, whenever he visited them, always gradually looked at her, admiring her from a distance, and he was so glad when his friend Iyina got married to Olwedu, giving him the chance to express his feelings to the one he had always loved, being Oluchi. After Prince Azuka got married to Oluchi, he ascended the throne as the king. And after he ascended the throne as the king, his friend Iyina became his right-hand man, as their both fathers had plotted. Left for Azuka, he wasn't going to use Iyina as his right-hand man, knowing fully well that there was something involved. He was too scared to use Iyina, but he believed that their friendship was way stronger than that of their parents. So he just accepted, believing that Iyina was going to be a better person. As Azuka ruled and reigned, Oba was living happily. The people of Oba loved his rule, as Azuka was better off than his father. Azuka guided the people. Azuka protected the people. But something that troubled King Azuka's heart was the fact that his wife had not even given birth to a son. Not like Oluchi had not given birth before, but all the kids she had given birth to always died the day they were born. It was like a strange misery that was occurring. Even though Azuka believed that she knew something, but Oluchi never knew. Her drawings and paintings could not give her answer. Whenever she drew, she couldn't figure out what was going on. And one day, Oluchi decided to go meet her husband, and she spoke to her husband. Was there any agreement you had with someone? And Azuka told her no, none that I remember of. And she said, no problem. We will keep trying, but I must give birth to a child for you. The people of Oba always prayed and made great sacrifices, hoping that Azuka was going to give birth to a son, as Azuka's reign was very wonderful, and they really hoped that his son was going to take over and become better off than him. One day, when Oluchi entered the room, she perceived the strong perfume, and she knew that this perfume was always strong whenever she was pregnant. And she asked herself, was this a sign of being pregnant or something? So she quickly invited her mother. Her mom was a great midwife. Her mom told her that something was fishy in the palace. That the moment she entered the palace, that there was something, a strange spirit she felt. Though nobody understood what she was saying, Oluchi did not understand what her mother said. Neither did King Azuka understand what she was trying to say. But she told her daughter, you see, this particular pregnancy is going to tarry, and you're going to give birth on your due day. But the reason why this pregnancy is going to last is because there is a daughter involved. And only she was confused. How do you know I'm pregnant? And how do you even know the sex of the child? Her mother told her, there is something hidden in this palace and no eyes can see. But I can feel it deep down. Someone has plotted something in the palace. And that thing is against a son. And only she quickly asked her mother, if you know what it is, can you direct us to the place? Her mother said, I wish I knew. If I knew, I would have removed it the moment I entered the palace. But one thing I'm sure is that you have to guide this pregnancy. Guide it with your last breath. guide your pregnancy. Let no one know you're pregnant. Let nobody serve your food. Even when I leave, be very careful. These words made Oluchi heavy in heart. She couldn't just understand the words of her mother, but at the same time, she wasn't ready to risk this particular pregnancy, as her mother had told her that this particular pregnancy was going to stay because she was carrying a girl. Oluchi tried her possible best to avoid the crowd. Even her maids, she sent most of them away. She did not trust anyone anymore. She tried to do everything herself, trying to guide herself during this particular baby. And Oluchi carried the baby to Fulton. And 3 days to where she was supposed to deliver, her mother came back to the palace. And when her mom had come, her mom sent out all the palace maids away and all the palace midwives, insisting that she alone was going to give birth to her daughter's child. And when it was time for Oluchi to give birth, Oluchi gave birth to 3 kids, 2 girls and a son. And the moment the boy came forth, they noticed that the boy was bleeding from his nose immediately. Her mom told her, "Do not be scared. I came prepared for this moment." And the mom quickly rubbed some herbs on the son, and the bleeding ceased a little. And she told her daughter, "I am going to take him with me, as his presence in this palace will cause chaos. Not just that, people don't want him to be alive. I'm going to take him with me, and I'm going to go to a faraway land to protect your son." Oluchi, my love, you know I've always known you to be a special one. This son is going to take after you. He's going to be able to see far and beyond. He's going to be greater than both you and I, and we need to protect him by all means, as the evil eyes are there and they want to kill him. The moment I leave this palace, I will hide him inside a basket and send in the midwives. So they are going to only announce that you gave birth to 2 girls. Make sure no one knows that you gave birth to a son, apart from you and I. I'll be sending you a message every time I can to know how your son is. Keep this as your greatest secret till the day it is time for him to show forth his face. Make sure no one knows, else they will look for him wherever he is till he is dead." Though Oluchi was trembling on the bed, but she accepted everything her mom had told her, and her mom left. And immediately, King Azuka was called forth to welcome his 2 beautiful daughters. King Azuka was so grateful. Be it a girl or a boy, he just needed a child in the palace. He was so glad. He hugged his wife greatly and thanked her for bringing forth kids into the palace. Everything that had happened that day, from the birth of the kids, never ever left Oluchi's heart. And she didn't know who was haunting her son. Neither did she know what her mother meant. But she knew deep down that she had a son that she had to protect. And the only way not to protect him was to speak. So she kept her secret like her mom had told her. The people of Oba rejoiced with King Azuka. They were excited, they were glad. They brought various gifts for the princesses. Meanwhile, Aina was excited, as not just that Aina had a total of 4 children, but they were all boys, solid boys. And he remembered his father's words that the moment Azuka does not give birth to his son was going to ascend the throne as a king. King Azuka was a bit bothered, as his wife was not able to give birth to any other child after the set of triplets she had given birth to. Though he was told that the last one died, but no one knew the sex of the child. He knew deep down that he was going to lose the throne to Iyina's sons, but he prepared himself for that day. He groomed his daughters, not just to be like ladies, but to be like men. Not because he wanted them to fight for the throne, but because he wanted them to know that in life, nothing good comes easy. His daughters, Chizu and Choma, were very strong, loving, beautiful, and they behaved alike. You could barely tell one from the other. It was just their parents that could. Azuka always prepared himself for his reign to end, knowing fully well that his wife had not and could not give birth to another child. Though the people of Oba greatly prayed and wished that he was going to give birth to another. And as the days went by, Azuka had made an announcement stating that the day he resigned, the first son of Iyina was going to ascend the throne as the king. The people of Oba accepted what he had said, knowing fully well that Azuka was a very, very smart person, and they felt that the gods were guiding him aright. If he said the first son of Iyina was going to be the king, who were they to say otherwise? As Azuka had reigned greatly, and they knew that his judgments was always good. Iyina was excited, preparing his son to be the king. He was grateful, and he told himself, finally, I am going to also have a reason to smile. My father, Uzoma, will be so excited that my son was able to ascend the throne. And when Azuka became old, like he expected, he left the king's palace and left everything in the king's palace. He carried his beautiful wife and daughter and went to her mother's place, where they were going to start life all afresh. After Iyina's son, Obi, had ascended the throne, Iyina was excited, full of life, and everybody could see the true Iyina, as Iyina had always hidden other in marks. Obi's reign wasn't as nice as that of Azuka. It was painful. The people of Oba suffered greatly, but when things became worse was when Obi's wife could not give birth to any son, as every son she carries would die the day he was born. Obi was pained. He was angry, kept on demanding that the priests should speak up and tell him the reason why. And at some point, Iyina, his father, kept on pointing accusing fingers on King Azuka. That probably King Azuka had placed a charm so that no one will ascend the throne after Obi. So Azuka was brought forth to the palace, and he was beaten mercilessly, as Obi had instructed the palace guard to beat him till he confessed. Azuka did not know what was happening, as that same thing happened to him, but no one believed him. Obi kept on instructing the palace guard to torture him every day till he confessed. And one certain day, when Obi felt that joy was coming to his family, his wife just told him she was pregnant for another son. And lo and behold, she lost the son again. It was at this point that Obi decided to go ask the great oracle what was happening. And when he got there, he was met with the shock of his life, as the great oracle had told him that his great father, Osoma, had planted a charm there so that Azuka was never ever going to have a son, so that he could ascend the throne. What his grandfather failed to understand was that that same charm had the right to kill every firstborn of the king. He had planted it before he died, and no one knew. Obi was pained. Obi cried and cried. And they asked the great one what was the price to remove it. And the great one told him the only way the charm can be removed was through a pure blood of the throne. And they quickly asked, what do you mean by a pure blood of the throne? The great one said, it is only if King Azuka has a son, It's just his son that can bring out the charm. Obi quickly asked the great one, does that mean I won't be able to have a child of my own? But the great one told him, you can. You will only have girls, as any son you give birth to would die. It was at this point that Obi went to the prison house and freed Azuka. Azuka returned back to his beloved wife and twin daughter, though he did not know what was going on, and his wife had not yet told him. And the great wise one told him, you have to go and apologize to Azuka, as he is the only key to your misery. Obi told the great one, but Azuka does not have a son. The great one said, I see far beyond. Azuka's blood liveth and reigneth in a strange land. He is the only one that can undo all that had been done. Obi quickly journeyed to the land where Azuka and his family were, and pleaded with Azuka for days to please permit his son to come and remove the curse that was holding them. Azuka looked at him and told him, I have no son to my name. I have just 2 daughters, Shizum and Choma. And it was at this point that his wife Oluchi spoke up and told him what had happened and how her mother had carried their only son and fled the palace, stating that there was something that was going to prevent him from leaving if he was in the palace. Azuka was heartbroken and he was shocked. How come you never told me? And she told him, if I had told you, you would have asked that he was brought back and you wouldn't have lived to see this day. Are you not seeing the life of Obi? He has no son because of what his grandfather had done. Azuka was shocked. So Uzoma could go to this length in order to make his family sit on the throne. Ina was embarrassed, shocked and pained, as he never knew the tricks of his father. He felt that getting married to Oluidu was all that mattered to his father. But he never knew that his father went as far as burying a charm that he wasn't even alive to remove, and the charm was affecting so many generations, as anyone who ascends the throne must lose all his sons. And it was at this point Oluchi went to bring her son, Ebuka. Ebuka was summoned by the Great One, and Ebuka was introduced to the people of Oba. After Ebuka was introduced to the people of Oba, Ebuka, being a wise one and a great seer, could see where the charm was hidden in the palace. The moment he entered the palace, he approached the particular position where Uzoma had buried the charm. He dug it out and threw it in a river where no one could take a hold of it. And after which, the people of Oba pleaded that Ebuka became the king, as he was the rightful heir to the throne. Ebuka did not want to become the king, stating that the blood on the throne was too many, pleading. But everybody in Oba said he was the only one that could appease those blood and take over. Not just that Ebuka became the king, Eyina and all his generation were banished from the land of Oba, as his father had done atrocity. They were sent out from the land of Oba. Azuka's honor was restored back to him, and he returned back to the palace, living in peace and harmony with his family. Ebuka's reign was far better than that of his generations, as Ebuka was a name to be remembered. Ebuka ruled the people greatly, far better off than his father and his grandfather. Thank you very much for listening to the story of the day. We've come to the end of this story. This is just a very short story trying to make us understand that whatsoever we do has a price. Uzoma thought that plotting a charm in the palace was going to kill all Azuka's children. But he never knew that that nature was going to occur one day. One day he was going to die. And what was going to happen to those charms? Who was going to remove it for him, as he never told his son? That same charm killed his own generation. We should remove hands from evil. Evildoers will always go crying. Thank you very much for watching the story of the day. We remain your favorite storyteller, Zika. Please do not forget to support your home girl by subscribing, liking, turning on the notification bell to get more interesting stories like this. Till we meet again in our next. Bye for now.